Damn, I got too greedy with that last 2 million, it must have tipped them off. I should have just let it go. I knew something was fishy with that bill. Now they're getting closer, even though they think I don't know yet. This will buy me some time though. I still have a chance to get out of here and make sure they can't follow me any further. Good thing I had a plan for this. So who am I, and who's trying to track me down? It doesn't matter who I am now, since this identity is about to disappear completely in 2 hours. I'll become someone completely different. The end of the trail. The hunters chasing me will hit a dead end before they can suss out my identity. I'm a hacker, a damn good one at that. And I'm not just any hacker, I'm a pissed-off hacker with a hit list. I'm going after drug cartels, keeping tabs on their bank accounts and dishing out incriminating evidence to the right folks, all while staying anonymous. I've personally taken down 4 politicians, around 50 cops, and a bunch of soldiers across various countries. I know so many small-time traders, it's crazy. I've managed to swipe over 100 million from them, but don't worry, I only take a cut. About 80% of it goes to different charities, mostly for drug addiction and rehab programs. Why, you ask? Well, my little sister got mixed up with the wrong crowd. I couldn't stand the guy she was dating, but she wouldn't listen to me. I tried to look out for her after our parents passed away. I've always been pretty skilled with computers, but those 2 rough years really took a toll on me. I was feeling amazing until I found out what happened to her body, then I went into a deep depression. I spent 2 years by myself in the basement of my parents' old house, discovering dark secrets and learning how to use them to my advantage. I even found loopholes in security systems. During this time, I came across some incriminating information about a group of drug addicts who killed my sister, which ended up in the hands of the DEA. Rival gangs also got wind that this group was using evidence against them. Yo, so check it, the gangs are quick as hell, way faster than the cops. So the government actually saved a ton of cash on lawsuits. My chasers are working for the cartel, from whom I managed to snag around $30 million. I probably should have stopped at 28 mil, but then I stumbled upon another little account. I had a feeling it was sketchy, but I was young, dumb, and still pissed off. Once that money went through 40 different accounts in 6 different countries, my anti-hacking software started going off like crazy. Someone threw in a backtracking program on the account, shady as hell. I was trying to find where the attack started, but it's gonna take a while. They had to sift through like 100 IP addresses before they could even start tracing back through the servers. I plugged in the flash drive, did some typing and clicking on the mouse, and managed to cover my tracks. The old building I was squatting in got burned down in a fire started by a homeless person. All my hard drives and memory cards went up in flames with all my important stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm in the clear now. Couldn't get anything from the burning mess, so I hopped in the van and headed west. 4 days later, I rolled into Vegas. 5 years later, babe, the computer's acting up again. I rang up my lovely wife Linda and she goes, seriously, Mark, how can a 25-year-old be so clueless with computers? What would you do without me, she adds, planting a quick kiss on my head. A few taps and clicks later, I'm back to checking my emails. Dinner will be ready in 30 minutes, she says. Thanks, dear, I reply. Man, watching her head back to the kitchen, it's been 2 years since Linda and I tied the knot. I still can't believe how lucky I am. After leaving my old life behind, I totally reinvented myself. I started working as a truck driver at a local lumber mill that had a trade union, so the pay was pretty good. I carefully took out a couple grand from one of my offshore accounts and bought a nice, simple 3-bedroom house on about an acre of land. I even built a separate building next to the house to use as a store and warehouse. And I made sure to add a hidden room too. Hey, can you fix and upgrade my computer system? It used to be a tiny storage room with a raised floor that led to some underground stairs. It looked like a normal concrete floor. I decided to take a break from going after drug dealers and cartels for a bit. I had enough money saved up just in case, so it made sense to lay low for a while. But I didn't want to lose my skills or fall behind on new tech. The room was for my hobby of restoring old muscle cars. My wife wasn't too happy about it. So she never showed up at my store, which worked out 'cause it gave me a chance to go online and do my thing without her knowing. You're probably wondering why I'm keeping this from her. Well, she thinks I'm just a regular mechanic and truck driver who's clueless about computers. When we first met, I couldn't just be like, hey, I'm a hacker named Ghost in the computer world, you know. Plus, the feds were on my tail 'cause of some stuff I did. I was involved in a bunch of cybercrimes, and some folks were trying to trap me and exploit my skills for their own gain. Also, there were some shady criminal groups after me. If they had caught me, it would have been a real bad time. How long do you think our relationship would last after all that? And once we tied the knot, there were some more tasks to handle, all for her safety. It's best if she doesn't know too much, so they can't use her for info. Yep, ignorance is bliss in this case. Damn, the woman I married is something else. Let me tell you a bit about my wife. She's the most beautiful woman in the world to me. I always hear in stories that every woman is the most beautiful, and I'm like, how can that be true for more than one person? I'll be real with you, she might just be above average in looks to others, but to me, she's a total goddess. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? She's 5 feet 6 inches, with long wavy coppery bronze hair down to her mid-back, emerald green eyes, 34D breasts, a small waist with a flat tummy, slightly wide hips measuring at 40 inches, and... damn, that girl D has got some killer legs, all toned and tan. She's got a cute little nose, high cheekbones, dimples when she smiles, and lips you just want to kiss all day. And her chin is on point, not too out there. So, how did we meet? I was at the sawmill one day, just doing my thing, when she walked in. She needed some boards for her new apartment shelves. While we were picking out the boards, she mentioned she wasn't great with tools. So, being the gentleman that I am, I offered to swing by after work and put up the shelves for her. The deal was simple: she buys the beer, I do the work. Let's grab dinner tomorrow night, since tonight turned into a dance party. Sorry guys and gals, no wild hookups here. The date ended with just a peck on the cheek. The truth is, I was scared of girls. So, here's some backstory. When I stole all that cash from the cartel, I was just a skinny 19-year-old. I'm a 110 pounds computer nerd, and up until now, I hadn't had much of a sex life. Since I got to Las Vegas, I've hooked up with 3 prostitutes. The first one was a letdown. She was just standing on Fremont Street. We did it in the back of my car, but she was so robotic. The second time, I was at a brothel in Pahrump, and at least she pretended to care. The third time was also at a brothel in Pahrump. This time, I had the cash to pay for the whole night, and I made sure she really showed me the ropes. So, I was trying to impress this chick I was seeing. It wasn't until our 5th hangout that we finally hooked up. I took her out to dinner at the Stratosphere, then we hit up a fancy dance club on the Strip. We had some pricey wine with dinner and a few drinks at the club. After dancing for 2 hours, we went back to my place. I always thought she was hot, but damn, she was a total goddess without clothes on. I didn't even have to ask, the soaked sheets told me everything I needed to know. It was all good as long as I kept doing my thing. I was so happy, man. Turns out the last hooker I saw really knew what she was doing. I also spent a whole year hitting the gym, so now I'm 6 feet 1 inch and 220 pounds of pure muscle. Can you believe it? I always thought of myself as a bit of a geek. Oh, and I had no idea about the size of my junk until the hookers started raving about it. But hey, they gotta do that, right? I never really paid it much attention. Man, they weren't kidding when they talked about how big I am. Linda and I were together for about 6 months before I popped the question. 6 months later, we tied the knot. We were happy together. Linda worked as an accountant for a big company with an office in Las Vegas. She made good money, and we combined our incomes to live a decent life. I never had to dip into my secret accounts. We went to fancy restaurants, saw shows, cruised on a nice pontoon boat, and both drove nice cars. Our sex life was pretty good. We hooked up about 4 times on average. A few times a week, when we didn't have kids yet, we used to get it on all around the house, in the backyard, in the pool, and in the hot tub. We enjoyed switching things up. Usually, after I finished work, I would head to my shop and tinker around for a bit before dinner. I'd spend half the time fixing one of my machines and the other half in the room on the computer. I wasn't really up to no good, just hacked into some places I shouldn't have. I never actually took anything or messed around with anything. You know, I kinda kept my skills sharp with the system. Sure, I could have swiped a ton of data and cash, but I didn't want to leave any breadcrumbs. After dinner, we cuddled up on the couch and watched a flick before hitting the hay. Sometimes, there was a little action in bed before dozing off. I kept up the act of being a tech dummy who would suspect a guy who can barely check his email of being one of the top hackers in the world. Meanwhile, I was busy hacking into bank systems. So, I've been messing around with some government and big company stuff, and I had to switch up my army of computer bots. I've been sneaky about it too, hacking from servers in other countries, sometimes using a bunch at once. About 6 months ago, I started noticing Linda getting all stressed out. Not a huge deal at first, but then I realized we were only getting busy like twice a week instead of 4. She's been working late and coming home exhausted, just heading straight to the shower and dinner. I asked her before going to bed, and she mentioned something about a major project they were working on. It sounded believable. Sometimes on Fridays, she would call me from her office to let me know she was going to happy hour with some of her colleagues after work. She's done this enough times for me not to be concerned. After about 6 months, I asked her how much longer it would last. I thought by that time they would either have completed the project or given up on it. Linda told me it would probably take another week or 2 before things settled down again. I decided she needed a little pampering. Man, my girl has been busting her ass at work lately, so I decided to treat her to a full-day spa package this Saturday. When I surprised her with it on Wednesday night, she was over the moon and we ended up having some amazing fun in bed. Finally, Saturday rolled around and she headed off for her spa day at 9 in the morning. Once she gave me a quick kiss, she headed out the door and won't be back until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I grabbed my coffee and went out to the shop to finish building the engine I had on the bench. After about an hour, I took a break and went to my computer room. Up until now, I had made a point of not hacking Linda's company. It's like one of those "don't mess in your own kitchen" situations. I was pretty firm about it. I didn't contact the company I work for, and I won't contact the company she works for after logging in and checking. My security programs got me thinking about this big account I had. I thought maybe I should check it out and take a peek at their servers to see what's up. Their security was a piece of cake. I was there in no time. First stop was Linda's computer. She was working on the project so I could get some tips in the right direction. Weirdly, there wasn't anything remarkable about the new big clients. I did some searches with keywords like "new client offer" and a few others related to that. Trying to win a new account, I was searching through her folders when I stumbled upon a locked folder labeled "Photos for James." Why the heck does Linda have a folder of photos for this jerk? I knew who James was. I've seen him at corporate events that I attended with Linda. I didn't really care for him, even though Linda thought he was pretty decent with computers. I managed to unlock the folder in no time, and let me tell you, I was beyond shocked. There were tons of naked pictures. Man, when I saw pics of Linda in her office, there were photos of her getting it on with some other dude in all sorts of positions. And get this, she even had pics of some kinky stuff she always denied me. I just sat there staring at the photos, feeling like a piece of me died inside. But then I snapped out of it and started planning to confront her as soon as she got back home. Divorce was definitely on the cards at that point. I had a couple hours before she got back, so I kept digging for more info. Just had to see what else she was hiding. This all started like 6 months ago when I noticed she was acting different. I snooped in her email and found out that she had been seeing someone else for way longer than I thought. Turns out they were banging for a whole year before she even met me. Like, what the hell? Why even bother dating me then? And then I found another email where she was talking about some shady stuff with her clients' accounts and her own company. Man, I don't know what's going on. So, I found some stuff about a secret bank account when I sneaked onto James's computer. There were also some pics of Linda, some of them in a motel room and others in some dude's bedroom. I needed more time to snoop around, so I ended up copying both James and Linda's computers, along with their folders on the company network, onto a spare drive on my server. Just out of habit, I peeked into the personnel folder on the server and got a shock when I saw my name on one of the folders. Before I left the network, I snuck in some spyware onto both computers. So, not only did they mess with the server, but all their shenanigans got redirected to my computer. Obviously, working on my cars had to wait. Then Linda came back from her spa day and thanked me with a wild night of sex. I was pretty pissed at her, but hey, I'm a guy. I'm not gonna turn down hot sex with a gorgeous, eager woman. She could be the devil herself and I'd still go for it. Actually, to me, she was the devil. Sunday rolled around and so, I got back to my store and Linda was knocked out. I saw my chance and snooped on her phone, installing spyware. Now I can see all her texts on my computer, monitor her calls, and record them on a separate drive. I can even track her online activity. Linda bounced around 10 a.m. She said she was gonna meet up with one of her buddies to hit the shops. She had her Find My Friends app turned off on her phone, so I hacked into her car's GPS to keep tabs on her instead. Turns out, she actually did go to the mall. After making sure she wouldn't be back anytime soon, I swiped her laptop. First thing I did was copy everything onto another hard drive. Then, I downloaded a keylogger and set up the camera for remote access. I knew I didn't have much time before I had to give the laptop back. I saw where she left it, so I decided to sneak a peek at her browser history. That's when I stumbled upon her second email address. I also noticed she's been visiting the bank in the Cayman Islands quite a bit. I'll have to investigate that later. I quickly wiped some grease and oil off my hands and face to make it seem like I was actually working on the car. Just then, I heard Linda come home. Shower, dinner, movie, then off to bed. This routine went on for a week. I kept up the act of being a clueless, loving husband. Every evening, I would head to the garage and pretend to work on one of my cars. So I spent a few hours yesterday going through all this info I gathered. I came across a convo between Linda and James that got me intrigued. Turns out James was telling her not to delete the browsing history on my laptop after she used it. Why the hell did she need to use my laptop anyway? I mean, yeah, I set it up to connect to servers when I first got it, but I never thought about spying on myself. Then the next day, while checking out the updates from their work computers, I stumbled upon even more data. As I walked in, I quickly realized that this was my own laptop. Ignoring everything else, I started checking out the incoming news stream. It looked like there were money transfers happening. I turned on the laptop camera and shifted the feed to another screen. Linda was working on my computer, with a Bluetooth in her ear. The microphone picked up her voice as she talked. I used the third screen to start a live feed of her phone call. I watched and listened as Linda, following James's instructions, moved around 50000 from a fake account. So, get this, they transferred my account to a bank in the Cayman Islands using my computer. And then deleted all the history for that day and logged out. What's going on here? I haven't even had a chance to check out my personnel file from their HR folder yet. And now I find out that I've been appointed as a computer security consultant. James hired me since he's the head of their IT department. And on top of that, I found multiple payments for my services all going to the Cayman Islands account. Let's investigate this. I was totally blindsided. So, get this, I got hired as a computer security consultant without even knowing it. Turns out, Linda and James, the sneaky duo, used my computer and IP address to transfer a bunch of cash from a fake account at their company to some shady offshore bank. And get this, they were already having an affair before I even knew Linda existed. I started to realize I was getting caught up in some sketchy stuff. Time to switch gears now that I know what's going on. I had to see just how bad it was and figure out what to do about it. And let me tell you, it was bad. When I checked the account in the Cayman Islands, I saw just how deep the rabbit hole went. There was like almost $10 million in that account when I checked the transactions. Turns out, they did this about 6 months after Linda and I tied the knot. And get this, they tried to be sneaky about which computer they used to steal the money. To top it off, when I delved deeper into my personal files, I found some red flags. When everything hit the fan, I was right in the middle of it. So, what should I do now? Surprisingly, it wasn't that difficult to act normal around this situation. Did she actually want to screw me over? I actually enjoyed having her around. Man, I was really getting it on with both of them, you know. She's so damn attractive, I couldn't resist having sex with her every chance I got. Then, on Saturday, I went through her emails from when we first met and found out they were already planning to blame me for everything. She thought I was good-looking and sex with me wouldn't be a hassle, but she was worried about my lack of computer skills. James thought it was actually a good thing that I didn't know much about computers, less chance of me messing things up. To figure out what they're up to, I needed a revenge plan. I started by setting up a few new bank accounts and activating the bot army I had put together. Most of the bots would just be a distraction, but I had a small group that could be traced back to me, although it would take a really good hacker to do it. I didn't want it to be too easy, of course. I deleted the personnel folder with my name on it from Linda's company servers and hacked and changed all the file transfers. I did some stuff on my laptop to change my IP address and avoid this happening again. I purposely infected my laptop with a bad virus and then disconnected it from my secret servers. Later that night, when I checked my email, I found out that a virus had messed up my laptop from some spam I opened. Linda looked really worried when she saw what happened. The next morning, I saw some messages between Linda and James. It seems they were close to finishing their scam. Just needed 2 more transfers to snag another 10 million before setting me up in a trap. The plan was to pretend to suddenly discover the theft, but of course it would be Linda who actually found it. She would be in charge of the investigation, with James, the IT manager, leading the cyber part. It's no surprise that everything would point straight to me. Linda would file for divorce while I'm locked up, and then in about a year, she'd marry James. There might be some suspicion about Linda's role in all of this, but she's gonna bring up how she looked into things and thinks I was keeping my computer skills secret from her. She's also gonna claim she was a target because I used her to hack into the company's computers. They both found it funny that I couldn't explain where the money went because I had no clue what the cops were talking about. Linda even offered to buy me a new laptop and said we could finish up everything in the next 3 weeks. So yeah, that's the deal. I knew my deadline was coming up on Monday, so I told my boss I needed a week off for some personal stuff. I had plenty of free time, so it wasn't a big deal. I did some digging online to find the toughest, meanest, and most aggressive divorce lawyer in town, and I set up an appointment for the next day. They thought they had 3 weeks, but they'd be lucky to make it to 2. When I got back home, I fired up the computer and got to work. I logged into James's home computer. You'd think being an IT guy, he'd have better security. He should have been smart enough to switch it off when he's not using it, but all he did was turn off the monitor. I rerouted his computer through a server in Belarus, but it wouldn't really make a difference because the connection would be wiped out anyway. His computer will be a dead end for anyone who tries to track it. The cartel I joined 5 years ago taught me a thing or two about security. They updated their accounts and passwords, but still used the same banks with updated passwords. It only works if you don't save them on your personal computers, which are. I'm at risk of getting scammed by phishing emails with links to stuff any rich person would want. This was just the beginning. I'll wait until I'm finished with Linda before going after James. James won't stand a chance. I still need him to help take down Linda. As usual, I went to my shop to work on my car. She actually left to go to Walmart and buy me a new laptop. While she was gone, I did some initial work on the plan. It was crucial for her to be at home when she used the computer, so she could prove she was. If she wasn't home, she'd have an excuse. I couldn't risk that. When she got back, she texted me saying she'd bought me a new laptop and it would take her about an hour to set it up. I thanked her and got to work. First, I cut all ties with James. I despised her, but I still didn't want her to get hurt. James will likely be tortured and killed, but Linda will just end up in prison for a few decades. Who knows? I used a different route to access Linda's laptop. No shortcuts, just a. Okay, so basically, I hacked into her work computer and then into the company servers. I transferred $20 million from the company to 4 different accounts in her name. I then made travel plans for her, bought a one-way ticket to the Cayman Islands for Thursday morning. Before leaving, I deleted James from her contacts, got rid of all emails with him, and wiped the account history clean. Then I removed all my spyware. It was risky, but I didn't think she'd have enough time to do anything too harmful. And finally, I cut ties and erased all evidence. Man, the way I was connected to her laptop was unreal. After everything, I decided to be sneaky and remotely shut down the Wi-Fi router at her place. I had a better one stashed away in the store, but she had no clue. The alert came through from the spyware I planted on her phone. Turns out, she had just finished getting the laptop ready for me when the internet went out. She was about to use my computer for something else when the connection dropped. I couldn't help but chuckle as they were trying to figure out the issue. I went ahead and transferred all the money they had swiped into. I made some new accounts in Linda's name, emptied them, and then shut them down. I also removed the spyware from Linda's phone because I didn't want anyone to know she was being monitored. After that, I wrapped everything up and went out for dinner. Tomorrow is gonna be interesting for sure. When I went to see Linda, she seemed a bit on edge. She mentioned that my new computer was all set up but the internet was down. Oh well, no biggie. I could totally log in and check my email. She didn't realize it wasn't a big deal for me at all. She was so busy during the whole movie, and I saw her on her phone out of the corner of my eye. I could tell she was getting more and more disappointed. I had a feeling she was trying to log into the account but couldn't, and she was also texting someone. When I went to bed, I just smiled knowing there wouldn't be any action that night. The next morning, I got up and left before Linda went to work. Basically, I was just messing around. Before I saw the lawyer, I was curious about how Linda's day went. But in a few hours, I'll get all the details. Finally, I was led into my lawyer's office. You know those TV shows where a hot lawyer in a sharp suit struts into the courtroom and kicks ass? That was my lawyer. He was 5'6", with an angelic face, curves that could make a race car swerve, legs for days, and a chest that could start a war within 2 minutes of the hearing. I could tell she was gonna be a shark in the courtroom. You could practically hear your heart singing along with the choir in the room. After making sure everything was hush-hush, I spilled the beans about my wife cheating on me, our whole relationship. Then I filled her in on the embezzlement and framing job. She asked how I found out, and I gave her a vague answer. Well, let's be real, I straight up lied. I told her I was using my wife's laptop because mine was busted. It wasn't working right, and that's when I found a folder full of dirty pics and her emails to her side piece. The emails showed she was cheating on me, and I wanted out of this marriage before things got even messier. I talked to my lawyer, and she said she could start getting the paperwork ready and maybe even serve her by the end of the week. I told her to hold off for now, though. I had a better plan in mind and didn't want to give away too much too soon. We ended the meeting, and I went home. I woke up, rebooted my home Wi-Fi, and started working. I left spyware running at Linda's job, and apparently all hell broke loose first thing in the morning. They had an emergency meeting, found out about a $20 million theft, and started an investigation. By then, I had hacked James's phone. James tracked the theft back to Linda, found out their account was drained and the money was transferred to new accounts overnight. Accusations were flying. It was pouring rain, and out of nowhere, Linda got an email saying she had to meet with the CEO, CFO, and head of security. This should be good. Just as I was having fun, the sound of multiple cars pulling into my driveway interrupted me. I quickly locked up, went into the main store, and locked the secret door. No one needs to know about that room. I even put some grease on myself to make it look like I was working on my car. As I left the store, I saw a bunch of police cars and big Chevy Suburbans. The cops were in their usual uniforms, but the folks stepping out of those big SUVs were rocking windbreakers with FBI on the back. I couldn't help but wonder what was going on. I quickly glanced at the warrants and then let them inside the house. I offered to help in any way I could, since I had nothing to hide. They went into guide mode, checking out my wife's computer and mine, which we just got yesterday and barely used because the Wi-Fi was down last night. I told them to take whatever they needed, but I really had no clue what was going on. What's up? Sorry I'm not great with computers, just ask my wife and our friends. I lost track of what was going on with Linda when I got taken to the police station and grilled for hours. My story held up though. I'm just a truck driver with no computer skills. I had no clue about what my wife did at work. She's an accountant with clients I don't know. What do you mean by a one-way ticket out of the country? She really just up and left without me, like what the heck? They figured out pretty quick that I was clueless about everything going on. They searched my store top to bottom but couldn't find the entrance to the computer room. Eventually, they let me go home. Linda got arrested while I was getting grilled. Poor James had to testify against her and watch as all the money was found so it could be returned. Must have been a real blow to find out she cut him off from the money and moved it all to her own accounts. So I just booked a one-way ticket out of the country, leaving him high and dry. Luckily, I had a feeling I'd get questioned about it. I mean, I was her husband, so it makes sense they'd think I was in on it. So, being the good hubby that I am, I called up a lawyer for her. I did my research and checked out every criminal defense attorney in town, 'cause I didn't want to mess up and accidentally hire a crappy one for her. Nope, I deliberately picked one of the best ones. Man, I really wanted her to get convicted and do the full time. The crazy part is that this is a federal case, so there's no parole or early release in federal prisons. If you get 20 years in federal court, you're doing all 20 years behind bars. I even went to her bail hearing and put up our house as collateral to bail her out, since she was a flight risk. She had to wear an ankle monitor too. No matter how much I despised her, I had to play the loving husband act for everyone else. Thankfully, she was too messed up from her situation to even think about getting busy. Her phone got taken away as evidence, so I went and got her a new one. I took it to my shop and put some spy gear on it before handing it over to her. Weirdly, James blocked her number after she messaged him for the first time. He said he couldn't talk to her because he was gonna be a witness against her. She turned down a deal and wanted to go to trial, saying someone framed her. Man, she really thought she was gonna win, but she didn't pull it off. She was guilty of taking half the money from that account, not all of it, or using that specific account, or her own computer, or buying a plane ticket, or firing her partner. Of course, the money was returned easily. The trial was a joke, in my opinion. It was pretty fascinating to see James testify against her using computer records. I could see his inner conflict over having to testify against his side piece, but he also believed she had it coming. He totally screwed him over and was gonna bail and ditch him. All Linda could see was her supposed soulmate backstabbing her and landing her in jail. I was ecstatic during the 3 days of his testimony. I just sat there quietly as her feelings for him changed from love to pure hatred. She tried her best on the stand, speaking up for herself, but the evidence was overwhelming and she couldn't come up with a good excuse. Now she's looking at 20 years in federal prison. The trial finally wrapped up and that was that. It was time to deal with James. I had a wicked plan for him, but sadly he'll never figure out why it all went down or that it was me behind it. I couldn't risk getting caught, that wouldn't be any fun. So, I got my lawyer to tweak the divorce papers to include Linda's jail time and made sure she'd be locked up for the next 20 years. She got served real quick. I set up some new accounts in places like Geneva and the Cayman Islands, all connected to James through the dark web. Left a few hints here and there, all pointing back to him. So basically, James's IP address popped up again after 5 years, some hacker chats caught wind of it. Now comes the tricky part: one had to leave a clue without being too obvious. I needed them to think it was a pro hacker, maybe even me, but still leave a little slip up for them to follow. I had to bounce through 10 servers in 6 countries, then I unleashed a bunch of bots and hit up the first bank. And that's the story. I found the 2 accounts I was looking for and moved them to James's new accounts. After that, I stopped the bank attack, cut off and erased my connection to James's computer. Then I went on the dark web to see the reaction. I wasn't really expecting anything yet, but it's better to be cautious. The next morning, there was another attack on a different bank and 4 more accounts were drained. Now there was 20 million in the account I set up for James. People started searching for me, but they won't find me. Yeah, it's me. But those guys are gonna track down the goat eventually. Some shady hacker groups on the dark web were onto it, seemed like the same ones who were after me 5 years back. It's time to wrap this up. I went back to the bank, hacked into James's computer, and moved $20 million to a Swiss account I set up. Covered my tracks real good. Not worried about the cartel getting that cash. Got back into James's computer and started something new. So, there was this heist on a bank account with a tracker in it, but this time it was only 2 million. The cash wasn't the main concern, it was the tracker that mattered. Last time, I managed to escape because I was onto the thefts and understood how the beacon operated. If I wasn't aware of the money transfers or my accounts, and if I didn't know about the tracker on that account, I would have been caught. I'm curious how James will explain all of this to them. I can't wait to see them grill him about where the money is, when he's got nothing. I have no clue what kind of money they're talking about. It's time to ditch his computer and wipe away all my traces. A week later, I cleared out my computer room and turned it into a storage room. I was wrapping up paperwork for a place I bought in Montana through a shady C corporation that was keeping my identity hidden. Then, a missing person story hit the news. Turns out James hadn't been to work in days and no one knew his whereabouts. They found his car abandoned. I was in a shopping mall parking lot, but couldn't find him anywhere. I wonder where he could be. Anyway, I had to go back to packing. Suddenly, I heard my name being called. James, no. I yelled as they shocked me with a cattle prod again to make me talk. I swear, I have no idea what you're talking about. You messed up this time, Mr. Ghost. The tracking software led us straight to your computer. We found all the data on it. We managed to recover $2 million from the last hack, but we want to know where the remaining $20 million is, as well as the $30 million from 5 years ago. Years ago, you told us this and we would have offed you. Keep lying to us and it's only gonna get uglier. But I don't know, they snatched me right as I was about to hop in my car at the mall. I felt a needle prick in my neck, then blacked out. Woke up a few hours later on a private jet, strapped tight to my seat. That's when the interrogation started. I had no clue what they were on about. They kept calling me Ghost and asking about the money they claimed I stole a few days back, $20 mill and another $30 mill 5 years ago. They weren't buying it. Me, when I said I didn't know anything, I actually freaked out when they showed me the solid evidence on my laptop. I knew I had to spill the beans to save my own skin, or else they would make my life a living hell. I messed up big time when I realized I had no answers to give them. Right now, I'm hanging naked in some bunker in the Colombian jungle, legs spread open for them to do whatever they want with me. This is a nightmare. I've been stuck here for 3 days now. On the first day, they roughed me up because I couldn't give them the answers they wanted. The next day, they used a whip on me. And today, they're pushing me around like cattle into sensitive areas. I really wish I could give them what they want so they'll stop. I'm scared to think about what will happen tomorrow, or the day after that, or the day after that. Mark left on moving day, about a month ago. His body was found tortured on the side of a road in Colombia yesterday. Today, it's my turn to disappear. After one more stop, I'll have to accept my new identity. I already sent all the stuff I brought with me to a storage unit in Denver. I paid for it with a bank transfer from some shady account. Linda got brought in and was handcuffed to the table across from me. She didn't look great, orange definitely wasn't her color. No makeup, hair was a mess, and she had bags under her eyes. Looks like she's not used to being in prison yet. So, how are you holding up? I asked. Please, Mark, you have to help me. I didn't do what they said, she begged. I sighed. I can't do it, Linda. Hey, I'll do anything for you, but we're splitting up. Please believe me, I didn't do anything to cause this and I don't want a divorce. Just sign the papers, Linda. It's all over. Please, just talk to James and see if he can help. We used to be friends. Please, just ask him, she begged. Have you heard about James? I asked. No, I was waiting for him to visit but he never showed up. And now he never will. He was killed in Colombia, her face went pale with shock. Apparently, the authorities think he stole a lot of money. So this guy, right, he was mixed up with one of those drug gangs. She was saying he might not have even known, but they all thought he did. Now, Linda, just sign the damn divorce papers and move on. But if I do that, I'll have nothing, she yelled. Come on, you'll be set for the next 20 years here, he replied. Mark, you gotta help me. I can't stay here, I need to get out. Listen, let me tell you a little story, Linda. About 5 years back, there was this really. They called him the Ghost because he was a skilled hacker who knew how to cover his tracks. It was like a ghost had taken over the computer system. The Ghost decided to target some drug cartels as a personal mission. He stole over $30 million from one cartel before they hired other hackers to try and find him. The Ghost managed to evade the trackers and disappeared, starting a new life. The Ghost was no more, and stopped everything. He was always messing around with computers, just doing some little hacking here and there to keep his skills sharp. But to everyone around him, he seemed like a total computer dummy. Even his own wife had no idea who he really was. Yeah, he fell hard and got hitched, truly devoted to his wife. But after 3 years of marriage, he stumbled upon the harsh truth that his wife wasn't really in love with him. Turns out, she had been seeing someone else the whole time they were together, her real boyfriend. And to top it off, he found out she only married him for. So, she was trying to set him up with her boyfriend to take the fall for the embezzlement they were pulling off. When I spilled the beans to her, she looked like she'd seen a ghost and went pale as a sheet. Ghost wasn't about to let them get away with it, so he hacked into their devices and work systems to gather proof. He switched things around so it was her name all over the evidence, not his. He made damn sure they got what was coming to them. His old lady's Newman thought she was two-timing him. The last straw for him was making her side piece testify against her and getting her locked up for a long time. They both felt heartbroken and betrayed, just like Phantom did when his wife betrayed him. Now that his old lady is out of the picture, it's time to go after her lover. The cartel was still hunting Phantom, so why not get revenge and make them think they finally got him? So basically, this dude Ghost used his wife's lover's computer to hack into a cartel and steal a bunch of cash. But he messed up and left a trail back to the lover's computer, so the cartel found out and ended up torturing him for over a month until he died. Tough break for the guy, he didn't have the info the cartel was after. None of this shit is real or believable, let alone provable. But I figured a made-up story like this might help you deal. Honestly, I don't think you did what the evidence says, but you're definitely not innocent. Just sign the damn papers and imagine what would happen if the wrong person found out you're a snitch in prison. I saw her face go from pale to red, and she called me a fucking bastard before charging at me. The guards weren't there by chance. Man, they had that chick handcuffed to the table with chains so short she couldn't even reach across to anyone. I just walked out as they were dragging her away, screaming her lungs out. Hopped into a beat-up rental car and drove to the mall. Left Mark in the car and strolled over to where my actual ride was parked, with my new identity all set. Drove off into the sunset. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so your partner doesn't play you dirty, and stay tuned for the next story cause this one ain't got nothing on what's coming up next. Yo, if you're not 18 yet, you better not even consider checking out the next one.